Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to talk about goblins, greenskins, then we're going to get into Skarsnik, who's the leader of the night goblins in the old lore. So, I wanted to do a whole video on Skarsnik, and there is a book to use as reference, but that mainly talks about the history of like how Skarsnik became the king under the mountain. And I was really kind of hoping for more of the stuff he accomplished after becoming the king under the mountain and leading the night goblins and uniting the various tribes and kind of that kind of stuff. And I know there's stuff way older than the Skarsnik book and the 8th edition Orcs book, but for some reason I was having a really hard time finding reliable sources or just much written on some of the older stuff. So I'm going to kind of do a more generic video. We're going to just kind of talk about greenskins in general. Maybe hopefully someone watching this video will leave a comment down below with maybe some other sources or something that they're aware of that I couldn't find. But yeah, so I just want to talk about greenskins in general to begin with. So I started out in my Warhammer adventure by playing the MMO. I didn't start with the game or collecting the models. I started, the first time I heard about Warhammer was the MMO Age of Reckoning. And in the MMO, I played a goblin shaman. And at the time, I really liked the game. I think the game was really fun. Unfortunately, it was rather unfinished. So once you got to a certain level, there was like literally just like no quests in the zones, which was really disappointing. I think the game had a lot of potential, it had a lot of fun ideas. However, it was very clear that the game got kind of rushed out and they really didn't finish a lot of the mid level to upper level content. So the starting zones, the first 10 leveled areas, and I think up to probably level 20 roughly was pretty good. And then after that, really kind of fell apart, which is why you saw most people that played the game after maybe a year or so were just doing free trial accounts and just doing world PvP with a level 10 character because there wasn't much. It didn't get much better. There was the PvE was kind of non-existent for quite a while, unfortunately. This is based on my memory. I'm sure they fixed it later, or maybe there was, maybe certain factions had more going on than other factions. So maybe the Greenskin area was maybe just a little lighter on content or the areas I visited. But regardless, that's kind of where my love for Greenskins kind of began. I guess it did start before that, though, because in Warcraft, my first main character, the character that I actually got to max level with in Classic, was an orc as well, now that I think about it. So I guess I've been a fan of kind of greenskins for longer than I can even think of. Exactly sure why I picked an orc warlock instead of an undead one. But yeah, for some reason I did, and I've been a big fan of greenskins ever since. Now you're thinking, well, I've seen your other videos. I know that you collected AdMech as your first Warhammer army. So why didn't you collect greenskins if greenskins are your favorite? And to be honest with you, the reason why I collected AdMech first mainly was because the models were just super cool, right? Like I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the Warhammer 40K orc models. They have redone the Orc Boys since then, and I will say that new Orc Boys look way better. And I am starting to collect orcs now that they have had some updated models. Now that things are like, 3D printings of things, and there's tons of incredible creators that are making orcs that I actually like the look of. It's just the old ones, I guess, were trying to make them look more like gorillas with like the curved backs. And yeah, I don't know. I didn't like that aesthetic. I just didn't like that look very much. So I waited, and now they have some more models that I like more, and I have access to incredible models via 3D printing. So I'm able to collect an orc and goblin army that I like. But goblins have always been my favorite. Goblin shamans, like I said, was my character. And something that game did that I thought was really cool. Some other games have had similar systems since then, but not exactly. Is the more you healed, you would build up your, I think Mork was healing and Gork was damage, or vice versa. and you would build up charges, and then that would allow you for your first spell that was the opposite type. So if you were doing damage, your first healing spell after doing damage, or if you're doing a lot of healing, your next first damage spell afterwards would do more based on how many charges you had. I thought that was kind of a fun mechanic because it made it where when you're doing these large world v world battles, you can be playing a shaman and you could have these moments of just insane burst damage or insane burst healing when you needed, or if no one in your group was really that hard off, you could use a heal over time, HOTS, just to build up, give some people some great sustain. Your front line, you get to supercharge HOTS on them. They're gonna have great sustain if they don't need the burst heal suddenly. And then you just nuke an enemy. You just like blast them, and they're really not prepared for it. So it was a really fun play style, very bursty. I really like that kind of play style, the versatility of the healing and the damage, and the kind of like the bursty nature. I played Paladin in Shadowlands when I went back to Warcraft. I don't play much anymore, but I have family that plays Warcraft, so occasionally I go back to play with them. Getting back to goblins, Night Goblin range from Games Workshop has some really good models. I wish they would redo the basic troops to make them look a little bit better, but a lot of like the fanatics really hold up. The squigs really hold up. The Mangler squig is probably my favorite model that Games Workshop offers. I think it's incredible. If you haven't seen, if you're like myself and you're thinking about collecting night goblins or orcs in general, but you want to start with squigs and goblins, the Battle Force box for this year does have one for night goblins, and it's I think pretty cool. I think two Mangler squigs might be a bit much. Personally, I think one and then maybe some just regular squig riders would have been better. But hey, whatever. It's good value regardless. Having two Mangler squigs is super dope. I'm really excited to start the project. I I am a little worried because I think AdMech was a lot easier to paint. And the reason why I think AdMech was a lot easier to paint was I didn't do any skin tones. I did zero flesh in my entire army. So I read through a synopsis, Scar6 book, and some things that I thought were pretty cool. I also found some stuff from like older codexes and stuff, and I kind of want to share some of that. So Skarsnik, as I mentioned earlier, is known as the King Under the Mountain. And Witch Mountains, Carrick Eight Peaks. If you've played the Total War games, you've probably know about Carrick Eight Peaks. It's a dwarven stronghold in the mountains, and it's fought over by Skaven, orcs, goblins, and the dwarves. And Skarsnik was the ruler of Eight Peaks, I believe before the end times. I believe Skarsnik still held Eight Peaks before the end times. Now, Skarsnik is known for his incredible intelligence, and that's kind of what sets Skarsnik apart from the average goblin. Skarsnik is smaller than the average goblin and is described as a runt in the book. In fact, in the book, I think it says 3 generations of goblins outgrew Skarsnik. So, like the people he was born with outgrew him, and then 2 more groups that were born after him also outgrew him before he got to the size of them and moved on from being in like the runt pits. But despite Skarsnik's small size, he was really crafty, able to learn languages incredibly quickly. Skarsnik was able to speak the Skaven language, the dwarf language, the human language, and obviously the language used by Greenskins. His understanding of guerrilla tactics and kind of ambush tactics is what really set him apart, as well as their ability to convince people to follow them. I mean, say what you will, but to be so small and to be able to get entire, clans, multiple tribes and clans of greenskins to follow you, not just goblins, but orcs as well, is pretty impressive as it's a very, militaristic culture. The visuals of Skarsnik, right? If you look at the model, he's got this squig next to him, Gobla, who is a giant cave squid, is said to be the largest of the cave squigs, who is Skarsnik's loyal companion. I guess Skarsnik saved Gobla when it was small, when it was just a runt, from being bullied, I guess you could say, or picked on by another goblin. And later, Gobla and Skarsnik end up in an arena together. Goblin was sent after Skarsnik to, to eat him, and Gobbo ran up to Skarsnik and smelled him and recognized the scent of the person who helped him, and instead of, eating Skarsnik, assisted Skarsnik in overthrowing the leader at the time of that clan, who was the one that was torturing the squig to begin with, and they became good friends after that. It's, very loyal squig. Additionally, you'll see on the model, he's got this pokey stick that is typically used by squig herders, but he has a special one that shoots lightning, which is pretty cool. So even though, you would look at that model and you would think it's only a melee unit with squigs primarily use bites, and the stabbing stick is basically just a spear. Currently, in the current Age of Sigmar setting, Skarsnik is not used. He is not the leader of the Night Goblins anymore. They have a new one who I don't remember the name of it. Maybe I'll read their lore and hopefully they have something more to them. They really have pivoted kind of Night Goblins quite a lot since the old lore, but I mainly played the MMO and I played Total War Warhammer, which are both set in the old world, so that's what I know. Now, just to give you guys some general information about Greenskins also. So, goblins live in caves, hence the King of the Mountain. There's a complex tunnel system that they tend to dwell in, and they fight over it with the Skaven and the dwarves. But goblins are like fungus. I'm in the lore 40k, the orcs are funguses and they sprout from the ground. And goblins also sprout from the ground. In fact, at the beginning of the Skarsnik book, it says he dug himself out of the ground. So we are left to assume that much like the orcs, goblins are sort of fungus. And I think they've really kind of ramped that up with the models, especially the newer models have a lot of mushrooms and things growing off, and they use the various mushrooms to eat. And the squigs are also of the same fungus, I'm pretty sure, as goblins and orcs are. They're all like kind of interconnected. They're all fungi monsters, and their blood is the spores. So when you kill a orc or a goblin, you're just spreading the spores that would become another one. Now that's pretty well defined in the 40k books that they're, the orcs are biological weapons and their designs. The more you kill, the more will grow. So the only way to truly ever get rid of them is to burn an entire planet. I don't think it's as explicit in the fantasy lore. However, the way it's described of like the birth of them just coming out of the ground would lead me to assume that there are the same kind of subspecies as, although they call them slightly different things from, orcs with a K to orc with a C, and then they change it from goblins to grots. It's, I think it's the same thing. There's many fan theories that one of the lost Primarchs is Sigmar, and that the fantasy world is somewhere in the 40k universe and it's one of the feudal worlds. Obviously, all that's fan theories. We don't know that for sure, but it's always more fun if we just assume it's all connected somehow, right? Now, I will warn you, if you are new to the Warhammer, totally, and you're thinking about, you see this video, you see the pretty models of the awesome squigs and goblins, and you're like, hey, I want to collect that. I will warn you that goblin armies are typically the worst armies in anything Games Workshop releases. The goblin army is one of the worst armies in Blood Bowl. The goblin army is consistently one of the worst armies in Age of Sigmar. And for some reason, there isn't a goblin army for 40k. Maybe I'll research that and make a video about that. I think it's kind of weird that there isn't a way to run just goblins instead of just having orcs as your main thing. There are plenty of goblin units in 40k, but they don't have their own ability to be run separately. I don't think they should be a separate army by any means, but they could do something like they do with AdMech, where maybe there's like additional rules and you have to agree not to take any orcs, like the veteran cohort for Scutari, where you agree that you won't take any Adeptus Mechanicus units. You're just going to focus on Scutari units with the exception of 2 tech priests, or one of each type of tech priest you could bring as an HQ unit, just because Scutari don't have any HQ units. I think they could do something very similar for orcs and just have, hey, here's like a goblin here's a goblin thing. Maybe let the goblins get access to clan cultures because I'm pretty sure goblins don't have access to clan cultures normally. Give them maybe some unique clan cultures. Make it where you can't take any orc infantry. So you can take maybe the vehicle still, but because you could just say that the vehicles are being run by goblins instead. And I think you could make a fun little like supplement that is like, hey, you can run goblins now. I know 10th edition's coming out soon, so it's not going to happen this edition, but it'd be cool if it did. I also realized that I think a lot of the really fun goblin units are Forge Worlds, so they're not even plastic kits. So it's very unlikely they'll do that. But yeah, I just wanted to put something out. I haven't made many videos recently, and I just want to try and make sure I have a video or two a week. So I've kind of caught up with my backlog. I'm gonna do kind of a quick video, do a quick video, get something out, see if there's any interest in kind of goblins or orcs and greenskins, and hopefully there is, and we can keep making stuff. And if there isn't, well, we'll go somewhere else. I'm pretty excited to be doing painting orcs and greenskins, orcs, goblins, and other greenskins, squigs, etc. I'm pretty excited to start my next project. It took me about a year and a half to kind of get most of my Advec army done. So I imagine it's going to take me longer to do my greenskins, but it's going to be my next project for the next 2 to 3 years, I imagine. And it'll be a good time. So stay tuned. Let me know if you're interested in seeing maybe my painting progress and or if I find any cool 3D prints and actually make them. If you want to see those, let me know. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.